Hey everybody, welcome back to another Flea Market Finds episode. This is a continuation of the pick from the summer show at Brimfield Flea Market in Massachusetts. This is the second day that I went back, so this was actually Friday, and one of the first picks of the day, I went into a guy's booth and I happened to notice underneath his tables he had some of these boxes, and I started looking at them and I realized, oh, what these actually are, which I've seen these before, are these Ohmite little resistor caddies. These are kind of popular, and they trade for around 25, 35 bucks, depending on the condition. What I thought was kind of neat about these was that these are the original boxes. So at first I thought they were new old stock, which would have been awesome. But in fact, they're used, and this is a cab 3. And the reason why I know that is because on the box, like this one, he wrote 2-watt resistors. So whoever's shop this came out of, for whatever reason, he was saving the original cardboard boxes to put these back in whenever he was done using them. And sure enough, what's in here are a bunch of resistors, and they're the old Allen Bradley style resistors. So even though these are old, they'll be perfectly fine to use. He put these little cushions in here, so but then okay, so there's more in here, but so okay, look at these are chock full over here. So as I was saying, I ended up getting this Ohmite resistor assortment with the resistors in it and the box for 20 bucks. And well, wouldn't you know it, turns out he had 2 more. So this one is 1/4 watt resistors. So same deal here, he's got this foam in here, but they're Allen Bradley 1/4 watt resistors. So if I want to work on some of my older radio equipment and I feel like having period correct resistors that will replace the bad ones, I've got these here. So that's how they go in the box. And what's nice about having the original box here is if I decide to sell these, say like on eBay, you know, I can double box them and they'll be well protected. And the last one here is 1/2 watt. Alright, so you get the gist of it. These labels are falling off. That's a common problem on these. The glue dries out and they fall off, so you got to be real careful not to damage the labels before you get a chance to reaffix them. I bought the 3 of those for 20 a piece, and then he says, oh, you don't want this one? He points out this thing, and I was like, oh, well, not really. But then I looked inside and realized that this is loaded with new old stock ceramic capacitors. So these are Centralab brand capacitors, and that's actually the name on the box that somebody put on there, a sticker. Centralab DD ceramic disc high caps. So I'm pretty sure these ceramic caps are also pretty much impervious to the ravages of age that some capacitors suffer from. So I think that this is probably well worth the 10 bucks that I paid for it. And I'll just keep it in this box. Oh, so in the last video, I mentioned that on my first day out picking Brimfield, one of the items that I had picked that I didn't have, I couldn't put my hands on at the moment, was a Keithley digital multimeter. And I had it with these other organizers. That's why I had misplaced it, but this is it right here. So I don't remember what I said I paid for it in that video. It was probably only like 10 or 20 bucks, and I probably wouldn't have even bothered. I've got plenty of test equipment. The only reason that I grabbed it was because it's a Keithley, which is considered a higher end meter. So this is a model 168 Keithley. On the top here it says Hyaltronics Corporation, non-calibrated, for indication only, do not use for quantitative measurements. Property of Hyaltronics. So the company that had this in there in their lab or whatever was Hyotronics, and they were just basically saying, hey, this hasn't been calibrated. Now, just because it isn't calibrated doesn't mean it's not a good meter. It could work perfectly fine. Oh, wait a minute. That's off. I thought that was the power button. That's off. So what do? You hit this. There we go. Huh. Interesting. It appears like this might have been able to be used with a battery pack, because it says battery there, charge, or CHG. I'm assuming it's charge. And this is to work it off the line. All I care about is that it's lighting up and the LED is working. Doesn't look like there's any missing segments. These old red LEDs are kind of cool, I think. Maybe that's just me. This has got, like, the whole face of the meter is the red translucent plastic. That normally you would just have this part be that part. Normally you would just have this section over here right in front of the readout be this kind of plastic. But on the Keithley, this particular model, they did the whole front. I just want to take a peek inside here and see if there's a battery pack in here and make sure it's not leaking or doing something horrible if it is present. So I just took out the 4 screws in the bottom here, and that will allow me to lift this top cover straight off the top. And well, there we go. So there is the 1688 battery pack option that many of these meters do not have. I just saw a video of a guy doing a teardown on one of these where it had the buttons, and he was explaining that his particular model didn't have it. Now, whether or not it comes from the factory missing that and they just still have it ready to go with the buttons, or what the story was was, I don't know. But mine has the battery pack circuit in place. It's just missing the cells. Now, this is interesting to me looking at this, because what the heck kind of cells went in this thing? If I unplug this plug and lift this up off, this basically removes the entire battery pack from the unit, and then the unit just, works off of AC perfectly fine. They really knew how to make stuff years ago, and I mean, I'm not saying they don't make good things now, but looking at the quality of the screening on the PC board. So yeah, I mean, everything just seems to be very neatly laid out. Look at all these traces that run perfectly parallel to each other. Yeah, so I wasn't able to find out what batteries actually went in this thing. The diagram here clearly shows that basically they're using the batteries to create 2 power supplies. One power supply is created by 2 cells here in series, and the other power supply is created by 7 cells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells in series here. So the cells that went in here, there must have been a plastic sleeve or something to keep them aligned and against each other, I guess. I'm guessing this would be really early NiCad technology, battery technology that was used in here. So these were probably 1.2 volt cells. So that'd give you about 8.4 volts out of this bank, and about 2.5 volts out of this bank over here. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Suffice to say that this will probably never ever be run on battery power again. Found this neat little anvil at somebody's table. Ended up getting it for $10. Kind of a neat one. I've bought a lot of these little anvils like this, and I've never ever found one that was plated in chrome, which seems kind of weird considering that, you're beating on this surface on the top here. So I don't know if this was never intended to be a actual anvil put into service, but somebody did. It's got some marks on top there, and it's got no maker name or anything else anywhere on it to indicate anything else about it. But I figured for $10 it was worth a shot. And then I got these 2 micrometers right here for $5 a piece, because they both are locked up. So locked up micrometers are worthless to me almost 90% of the time. The reason why I bothered spending any money at all on these is because in this particular case, at least they're specialty micrometers. This is a Mitutoyo 2 to 3 inch disc micrometer, and it's actually so locked up that when I just tried to unscrew this, I actually just unscrewed the thimble from the end of the stem here. That's how toasty that one is. Oh, man. So I don't know if that's going to be able to be saved or not, if somebody wants to put the time into it. It does have a good ratchet on it, so I guess I could steal that off of there if I don't end up getting any money for it. And then this one is a indicating micrometer. Oh, I forgot who made these. I recognize it because of the color. I've got some of these now, but this is, so the good news about this one is the thimble isn't locked up. It's just the indicating anvil is locked up. So the way that these work, if you've never seen one of these before, I did a video on one of these where I take it apart, clean it up, and get it to work. Once you tighten this down, or once you close this down to where the anvils contact each other, as soon as you turn any further, in theory, the anvil will start to move in that direction and the indicator will start to operate. But this one doesn't do anything, so it's going to need some love. I think the last one of these, the reason why I fixed it was just because I wanted to see whether or not I could do it. I was kind of curious. Oh, that's interesting. That just popped out. That was just stuck. So this is like a manual button that brings the, you can see the needle moving now. See it? So now let's see if this actually works. It does. How do you like that? Obviously it would need some calibrating, but it's not junk. I was just out of frame for a lot of that messing around with it, but what I discovered is that if I turn the lock on, it does lock the thimble, but when I turn the lock to the off position, it's still very stiff. So it could use some love. But the good news is it actually seems to work. It's not completely broken. Then I found a dealer who had some machinist items and went through some of the stuff he had there and was able to cut somewhat of a deal. First thing I spotted was these hard-hinge collets. These are they're 5C collets. They're genuine hard-hinge, and they do appear to be new old stock. Hard-hinge makes a really good quality product, so I figured these collets were worth taking a shot at. He wanted $5 a piece on these collets. Usually when I buy used collets, I don't spend much more than a couple bucks a piece for them. But these being apparently new old stock and a good brand name, I was willing to go the $5 a piece on these. But the way it worked out was he wanted $5 a piece for these. That'd be 20. He wanted 15 for this. And then he wanted 15 for this, which would be 50. And then another 20 for this. In the end, I ended up getting him to take 50 for the lot. So it's kind of like I paid his asking price on all of this stuff and got this thrown in for free. But like I said, the collet's $5 a piece. That's okay. So this micrometer, I paid $15 for it, and it's locked up, which might seem like, boy, that's really you overpaid for it. But the thing is, it's a thread pitch micrometer, 2 to 3 inch. So this was a very expensive micrometer when it was new, and in good working order it would still be worth something. But this one being locked up, I don't know. I mean, it's got a good thimble. It's kind of like, it's funny, I did get this at a different dealer than I got that flange micrometer from, but I think all of these antique dealers, they figure the best way to store machinist tools is overnight out in the open air, so that the dew can just get to them and they can just sit there and rust away. So I don't know if that's going to be worth doing anything with at all. And then this one for $15 is another screw thread micrometer, 1 to 2 inch, but at least this one, it was protected from the ravages of the elements, so it actually still works. It actually looks brand new, So the outside box here has got a very cheap Chinesium look to it. The micrometer itself has a very long part number on it, but it doesn't have a name on it, so we're just going to assume that this is a cheap import. But it is a thread micrometer, thread pitch micrometer, and it does have quite a few anvils with it. Looks like the two that are in there now probably go in this spot right here, so I think it's a fairly complete set. And this is actually a standard for the thread pitch micrometer, so it's actually got a place for the anvil to actually fit right into. So the idea is you take the tips out and actually stick this in there to calibrate the mic. So I paid $15 each for these, and the irony is that in this case it's going to be the cheap Chinese one that's going to be worth more in the end. And then that brings us to this lowly little micrometer, which I think is a Mitutoyo, but we won't know because the label is missing, but it's got all of the earmarks of a multi-anvil Mitutoyo, and thankfully everything is working on this, even the lock. This would have originally come in the case, and it would have had the interchangeable dowel pin, which is in there, and then the little carbide flat piece that would go in there. And I got these two more items here, and then one large item I'm going to clear the bench off and bring in to show you. But let's get to this right here. This is an Ames branded from Waltham, Massachusetts, thickness gauge, and it actually works perfectly well. Somebody engraved it heavily with their name, Madzik, which is unfortunate because other than that, it's actually very clean. It's kind of neat that it's got the original box, and it's from Waltham, Massachusetts, which is not terribly far from here, probably about an hour's drive. And it's even got the paperwork with it. But boy, I worked hard to get her down on the price. The lady only had this one machinist item, and I forgot what she started at, but I got her down to $22. I just couldn't get her to get down to 20. So I finally gave in and gave her the extra $2. Big spender that I am. And then from another guy's table, he had a table of items that everything on the table was $5. And I spotted this neat old tachometer. And so I was like, oh, $5? Sure, why not? Take a chance on it. And I think, if memory serves me, that this actually is still an operating tachometer. Yeah, so this thing's still working. And it's got all the important accessories with it, you know, the wheel, the cup, the cone. And it looks like this has got a top speed of 10,000 RPMs. The low range is up to 400 RPMs. And this is a Venture tachometer made in England. And I don't think I've had one exactly like this before. I had one similar though. The enamel paint here is kind of bubbling. Actually, that looks like, now that I look at that, looks like that's a plastic protective sticker or something on there. That might be that might be all that's bubbling. So, anyways, kind of a neat old tack. I've got too many of these, but I can't help myself. For $5, who can blame me, right? All right, let me clear this off. We'll show you that one last item, which I actually bought off the guy that I saw earlier in the week. I bought a bunch of machinist tools from. I saw this earlier in the week. I really don't want to get involved with it, but then by the end of the week, it was Friday. Nobody had made him an offer on the thing, and I think he originally was asking $50 for this thing, and I took a chance on it and got it for 20. So let me show you the monster I bought for $20. So this is the item that I snagged for $20. And what this is this is a Mitutoyo electronic height gauge. It's a very well-worn, used one. And again, we're going to find out whether or not it works at all. I bought it as is for $20. So the last one of these that sold on eBay was probably in better physical condition than this one, and it said it was taken out of a working environment but was missing the battery. So they were basically shipping it without testing it. But they were also offering returns, so
who knows what that means, but that one sold for like $240, and then they paid another $70 shipping on top of that. So I figured for $20 it was worth taking a chance on this thing. This one does have quite a bit of wear. The plastic overlay over the buttons here is actually cracked where the on-off switch is. You know, these get brittle with age, and after years and years of pushing this, it's not unusual for these to crack around the buttons. So the on-off button and the 0 button are both cracked. That doesn't mean that they're not going to work. It just means that now there's a chance for moisture or anything else to get in there. This is so well worn that all of the writing that was down here, I believe this probably said HDS Digimatic over here, is now completely worn off. This is a 24-inch gauge, so it's hard for me to get the whole thing in frame, but just to show you up at the top here, it also says that it's the HDS series up here. The enamel is missing in areas on the base here. I suspect that, again, this might be just from years of being exposed to a harsh chemical environment maybe, or something along those lines. Who knows? There is a calibration sticker here, but from what I can see, it doesn't appear to have anything written on it. It's possible that maybe it was filled out at one point, and the numbers and letters just faded away with time. Turning it around, looking at the back, we can see that the catalog number is a 570-215, and that this is a model HDS-24-inch. So obviously they made the 12-inch version of this. I don't know if they made an 18, but I did see a 12-inch version of this online that sold for about $200 also. There's still a scriber in here. This is one of those combination scriber and post mounts for an indicator. Clamps present, which is nice. Lots of times these are missing. It does seem to move smoothly up and down when you unlock it. And we have a secondary lock here. It allows you to lock this part so that you can then use the fine adjust. Just remove 2 tiny screws from this side, and I've got 2 more on this side. Now that I have all 4 of those screws removed, I'm just going to take a moment to throw those clear across the shop so I don't have to worry about losing them later. I'm going to take a guess that this little plastic cover right here, which I think it covers a port for output. So if you wanted to hook this up to a computer and record measurements as you're going along, I guess. This does look like it's been removed in the past. There we go. Yep, that's what it was. So this piece that I'm talking about being all cracked and everything, this is just an overlay. So you literally, you could peel that off, and if you can get a new one, you can glue a new one right on there. It's actually like a peel and stick type of deal. So it wouldn't be hard to dress this up if this part's still available. While there is a battery present, this can't be too ancient because it's only using 1 battery here. I would have expected a lot of the earlier stuff uses like multiple batteries to run. I'll probably just carefully clean that LCD display before I put the cover back on. I can just see a very small amount of corrosion green on that contact in there. This is that port right here where you can hook up an interface. Well, I just tested this battery and it is very dead. It's got like 0.2 of a volt left in it, which is good news for me. Because if the battery was good, then it would lead to me thinking that there's something else wrong with this thing, which there may very well still be. But well, these LR44 batteries that I have are direct cross for the MS76, so technically this should work. And it's lighting up already. That's great. Alright, so before I go any further, which is going to be installing the cover, I'm going to just clean this dirt that gets in the edges here that you can't really clean out with the cover on. Alright, now we're just going to go look for those screws I threw. Alright, so I got it all reassembled now. I also cleaned the main beam here that this rides up and down on. There was a little bit of black material on there, some kind of gummy stuff. Clean that off, and
it moves a lot more smoothly now. Just turn it on. Doesn't take a very hard push to turn it on, which is good. Doesn't indicate like there's a problem. You know, I would be concerned if it was hard to push to get it to turn on. That would make me think there's a problem with the button, and that's what led to this membrane being cracked. But I think they're just cracked from age. So now we've got it turned on. It's at 0 by default. If I rotate this, we should see it move, and it does. All right, so indications are that this might be a working unit, which is fantastic. It's lit up, it says ABS, so that would be absolute. So if we hit this, it's all 0, and it goes to INC, which is probably incremental. It switches from inches to millimeters, perfectly fine. I don't know what these other preset hold and all that, I don't really care about. Of course, the only way to really test if this is 100% functional would be to have a surface plate and use some gauge blocks and do some measuring comparisons and see how it acts. But I have no reason to believe that it isn't working. The beauty of a unit like this, because it's an optical unit. Pretty sure these are optical. It's either optical or magnetic. But generally speaking, these things don't go out of calibration. They either are just completely broken or work perfectly. I realize there may still be some skeptics in the crowd, so let me show you. I've got this test here all set up and ready to go. See, I happen to know that my index finger is exactly 1/2 inch from the fingernail to the pad. So I've already zeroed it here on the top of this anvil, which is as good as any surface plate. And I bring this down to where it's just touching the top of my fingernail, and see, what more proof do you need than that? All kidding aside though, I think that's going to bring this video to a wrap. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing and sharing the video. Till next time, take care.